Hello and welcome to Coffee with Carey. Thank you for being here today. Guessing you wanted to know what I meant by make up your own makeup palette. And you may be very familiar with what we're talking about today, but maybe you've never even heard of it or knew that this was an option for organizing all your eyeshadows or blushes, powder products, cream products even. So if you want to condense things, you want to have things easily accessible, clear up space in your makeup drawer, have something that's easy to travel with, keep watching. Today we're talking about the Z palette. So I think the first time I heard of a Z palette was online, maybe watching a beauty influencer on YouTube, I don't know, or reading an article. There's some beauty blogs that I followed before I was even watching YouTube videos. And I saw somebody explaining how to depot their eyeshadows. So for instance, this is the eyeshadow that you've seen me use because I like this pale eggshell color for the corners of my eyes. And if I wanted to include this with my regular colors that I use for a transition color and the black I use for the corner and my favorite warm and cool brown and maybe even a blush, I wanted something I could throw into my travel bag and I wanted it all contained in one palette. How would I do that? That's like 8 different palettes or little containers I need to have. But what I could do if I had a Z palette was I could take these colors out of here. And there are methods to that. There's videos that you can watch that show you exactly how. I think the company even sells a tool of some nature to help you depot, but I used a blow dryer and some knife or something when I did mine. But I removed all of these from here and I put them into my Cool Z palette, which looks like this. On the back it says Z palette, you can see. And on the inside, I'm a little embarrassed because it's sort of messy, but these are all my browns and neutrals that I've had from different brands. I think I used this in a video recently. I don't know if you've seen it already, but this is my coppers, my beiges with shimmers here. We get warm browns. This was my favorite and my first venture into very warm browns, which leaned more towards the orange, I would say. My 2 favorite mid-tone MAC colors. I know this one is Cork. It's magnetized. That's how they're all staying here and not dumping out. I'm not leaning it over because I know there's loose powder in here. I haven't cleaned it in forever. But these are Cargo. These are Urban Decay. There's MAC colors in here. Now, these are all mismatched and it's pretty odd looking. I've got big rounds and small rounds and some rectangles in there. How many fit in a Z palette? Because there's a small, there's a medium, there's a large, there's an extra large. Well, I don't know off the top of my head, but they do have a little chart. The numbers that I'm remembering are for MAC products. So say for instance that you had 35 MAC shadows would fit in an extra large Z palette. 35 would fit in here. In one brand would fit into a Z palette. And if you had a large, there would be 28, a medium would be 15, and a small would be 9. So you could create a palette of all MAC shadows that you could take with you on the go. And they would all be like this, and they would be 7 across in 5 rows. There are other brands that they give you those dimensions for as well. But if yours is a mishmash like mine, you'd have to kind of figure out whether you had a bunch of them and you wanted a large or extra large, or whether there was just a handful or so that you felt would fit. Some people don't do just eyeshadows. They do all their blushes in here, or they mix the blush with eyeshadows and make a grab and go type palette. They don't all have this design. There are other designs that you can choose from, or plain black. But the nice thing is, if you have numerous Z palettes, it's got the clear cover here so you can see which one you're grabbing. Makeup artists, for instance, have rows and rows of Z palettes, and they probably label them, but they can see right into it to see what's there. And I know they sell them at Ulta, they sell them on Beautylish, they sell them at the Z Palette website. They range in size from 6x4 for a small, all the way up to the extra large is 6 by 8, and I know the biggest one is $28, and they go down from there. So I don't know if this would be useful to you, and you're also wondering, how do I know if all of my shadows or blushes or anything I choose to put in a Z palette is magnetized? And I don't think you do get to know unless it's labeled as being magnetic. But they do also come with, and you can order extras of little stickers that you can put on the backs of your shadows, and that will make it magnetized. There's a magnet in the sticker so it will stay put inside the palette. Also, it comes with stickers so that it will tell you the name of the color and the brand. But one of the really cool things about using a Z palette instead of buying all your eyeshadows separate is that some companies actually sell the shadows in the pan without buying all the additional plastic surrounding it, which is really kind of great for the environment. We don't really need an eyeshadow that's this tiny coming with that much packaging around it and plastic that's ending up in the landfills. So it's sort of a green decision to make too. The other cool thing is if you are a person who has limited space for makeup, say in a bathroom drawer perhaps that's designated for makeup alone, and you've got everything piling up and you can't find it and your favorite one gets pushed to the back, this is great because it's right here. You could have another one on top. I mean, in a bathroom drawer you could probably do 5 on top of each other, even with the largest of makeup collections. So it's space saving as well. I didn't know if you were aware of Z palettes, but I really enjoy mine. So easy to travel with. I'm heading out of town this month in March. I may have a newer palette that will work great to take with me, but if not, then I know everything I need from my lightest shade to my transition colors to my darker crease colors is right in this palette. I can just grab it and go. So that's the Z palette. Hope you found that helpful, or introduce you to it, or explain something you didn't know about depotting. I don't know, I'm not an expert on the depotting. I know I did ruin 1 or 2 shadows in that process, but I used that method of breaking it all up and using alcohol and letting it dry out to reconstitute it as a powder eyeshadow in a pan. And that worked just fine. So that's also on somebody's YouTube channel, not mine. That's all I've got for today. I appreciate you stopping by to see what I was talking about when I said make up your own makeup palette. That's how you do it with a Z palette. There's other brands as well. The Z palette's probably the original, and I think I've seen some prices that were a lot more expensive than the Z palette, and I've also seen a less expensive one that wasn't really well made. So do your research. I just wanted to give you the introduction. Thanks for stopping by, and until next time, have a good one.